Hey guitar fanatics, if you're a developing guitar player that uses mostly blues licks and pentatonic scales, you might find that after a while a lot of your licks and solos start to sound kind of the same. Well, let's fix that. Today I'm going to show you an awesome soloing technique that's used by some of the best lead guitar players in the world. This concept is called arpeggio clusters. It gives you a melodic roadmap that you can use to navigate the fretboard and create licks that actually follow the chords and sound totally professional. I'm going to show you how it works and how to start using it today. So grab your favorite guitar, open up your mind, and let's get after it. So I'm a huge fan of great pentatonic playing and killer blues licks, but sometimes we need to mix up the composition of our licks and solos to keep things from getting stale. Arpeggios are a great way to create licks that sound melodic because they're made up of the notes of the chords themselves. And when we play an arpeggio, because we're basically playing every other note in a scale, they have a more open, airy, and just prettier sound than running a scale pattern. I'm going to play a solo over a 2-chord backing track with the chords B minor to E7. I'll solo for 4 bars using mostly the pentatonic scale, and then I'll solo for 4 bars using a series of arpeggios to make my way up the fretboard. One is not better than the other, but check out the differences in the sound of these two approaches to playing over this track. There's something to be said for both approaches. I love the rootsy, aggressive sound of bluesy pentatonic licks. But the melodicism and sophistication of the arpeggio-based phrase sounds amazing and just has a whole different thing going for it. I should say that the idea for that lick came from something that I heard the fiery blues rocker Eric Steckel play. I did change it up a little bit and I put a different ending on it. Now, what was that lick all about, and what am I getting at when I use the term arpeggio clusters? So the first chord I was playing over in the backing track is B minor. Over a B minor chord, it's pretty obvious we can use B minor triads to make up licks. Here's a series of B minor triad inversions starting at the 7th fret with the B minor root position, the first inversion at the 10th position, the second inversion at the 14th position. We can also use B minor 7th arpeggios. Here's the root form at the 7th position. Here's a really slick diagonal first inversion starting on the D at the 10th fret. Here's a second inversion form at the 14th fret. I think you can see why I said before that arpeggios give you a melodic roadmap for navigating the fretboard. Look how much of the neck we've already covered, and we're just using B minor variations. So using B minor variations over a B minor chord, well, that's pretty obvious, but here's a little trick that you might not know. We can also use the relative major 7th arpeggio over a minor 7th chord and vice versa. So D major 7 is the relative major 7 of B minor. Here's a root shape at the 10th position. Here's the third inversion. It starts at C sharp at fret 9 of the E string. The first inversion is up at the 14th position. And a second inversion shape is at the 17th position. Okay, so now we've opened up all kinds of possibilities. We can start to see how these shapes overlap, and that's where the term clusters comes from. And we can now start to create licks where we play these patterns into one another. Here's a lick using a B minor 7th shape at the 7th position, ascending, and then sliding up to play the E note for some color and descending through the third inversion of D minor 7. And here's another lick where I'll ascend through the B minor 7th shape at the 14th position, slide up to C sharp at fret 21, and then descend through the second inversion of D major 7 at the 14th position. Both of those licks sound so darn melodic. So as you can see, the idea behind the term clusters is that there are arpeggio shapes and inversions that literally cover the whole fretboard. It's our job to identify the ones that are going to sound great over the chords we're soloing over, and to then start connecting them to make up cool sounding licks and phrases. So far over that B minor chord, we've said we can use the B minor triad, B minor 7th arpeggio, plus the D major 7 or the relative major 7th arpeggio. You could also use the D major triad, but it doesn't sound nearly as cool as D major 7. Now what else could we use? Let's take a quick look at the chords in the backing track and see if it gives us any clues. Brace yourself, we're going to talk a little theory. So on our track we've got B minor going to E major or E7. Now B minor, it's the relative minor of D major, but there's no E major chord in the key of D. The E chord in the key of D is E minor, so we know we're not in D. But B minor is the second chord in the key of A major, and E major is the 5th chord in the key of A major, so A major is the key of our track. Why is that important? Well, a cool trick is to look at the notes of that B minor chord, and those notes will be the roots of arpeggios that sound great over that B minor chord. So the root of B minor, well, it's obviously B. We're already using the B minor and B minor 7th arpeggios. The third of B minor is D. We're already using D major 7. The 5th of B is F sharp. Now the F sharp chord in the key of A minor is F sharp minor or F sharp minor 7. That's a familiar F sharp minor 7 shape at the 9th position. And right next to it at the 10th position is a B minor triad shape we can use. That lick has a really nice sound. And what if we really want to cluster up and create an even longer lick? We could turn the direction around by playing the A at fret 12 of the A string and then sliding into the B and playing B minor 7 at the 14th position. Then we could slide into the C sharp at the 21st fret of the high E and descend through D major 7, the second inversion, at the 17th position. Check out how fluid and melodic this entire phrase sounds. Let's stop there over B minor because I don't want this to get too overwhelming. As a player, your job is to, number one, identify the different arpeggios that work over a chord. Number two, pick out some shapes that are in the same area of the fretboard and make up some licks connecting them. And number three, explore how you can connect some clusters in one area of the fretboard to other clusters above or below that same area. There's just so much music you can make with this concept. So how about the other chord in the backing track, E or E7? Well, E major is the triad in the key of A with an E root. E dominant 7 would be the 7th chord, or 7th arpeggio. Over E major, we can obviously use an E major triad. We could use an E7 arpeggio. But how about our trick of looking at the notes of the chord and using those to determine what other arpeggios we could substitute? G sharp is the third of E, and the G sharp 7th arpeggio in A major is G minor 7 flat 5. That's a shape we can use at the 11th position, and check out how that sounds if we combine it with E7. The 5th of E7 is B, and as we've seen, the B chord in the key of A major is B minor 7. Here's what a B minor 7 arpeggio sounds like being played into an E7 arpeggio. Lastly, the 7th of E in the key of A is D, and the associated chord would be D major 7. Here's what a D major 7 being played into an E7 arpeggio sounds like. Let me play that series of arpeggios over an E root. Here's E7. Here is G sharp minor 7 flat 5. Here's B minor 7. And lastly, here's D major 7. Now check out this little lick. I'm going to combine B minor 7, E7, G minor 7 flat 5, and D major 7 before resolving back to an E note. Here we go. Pretty sweet. So there are a bunch of possibilities for you. And by now you should be seeing how these clusters work. They're literally a network of shapes that you can flow between all over the fretboard. Now it's on you to dig in and find them all. So what about that arpeggio lick that I played earlier over the backing track? Let's take a look at how that one was structured. It starts off with this B minor 7th shape. And I throw a C sharp or the second in there to give it some melody. And we finish over that first B minor 7 playing the C sharp an octave above where we started. Over the first E major, or E7 I guess, I play a D major 7 arpeggio with the E or the ninth thrown in there. And as we saw just a minute ago, D major 7 is one of the arpeggios that we can substitute over E7. So far in our lick we've got this. And we're back to B minor 7, and we're going to use a little horizontal pentatonic shape to climb up to the B minor 7th at the 14th fret. So we've got A and B on the A string, and we've got D, E, and F sharp on the D string, and then back to the E7 chord, and I play this B minor 7th shape. Over B minor 7 again, I make a melody out of the B minor 7th shape on the D, A, and E strings. And then over the last E7 chord, we're going to combine a couple of E triad shapes with G sharp, B, and E on the E, A, and G strings. We play F sharp, and we're going to slide into G sharp at the 18th fret of the D string. And now we've got another E major triad shape on the G, B, and E strings. And we're going to finish off over that E chord by sliding into C and bending it up to D. Now D is the flat 7 of E, but it's also the minor 3rd of B. So as the chord changes back to B minor, we can finish off things with a bluesy thing in B minor pentatonic. Here's that whole lick slowed down. Now let's hear it a couple times over the backing track up to tempo. All right, folks, there you have it. Arpeggio clusters are a tool that are going to enable you to connect ideas all over the fretboard. You can keep it simple and just use the arpeggios of the chords you're soloing over, or you can jazz things up by using substitutions, and you'll start to hear all sorts of extensions and color notes. All it takes is a little mapping of the fretboard and to spend some time looking for the connections between the shapes. Get this stuff down. I know you will see dramatic improvement in your lead guitar playing. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, Have fun with that guitar. I'll see you soon.